Welcome to a battlefield of minds. Two grandmasters face off where every move cuts like a sword. One mistake, and it's over. This isn't just chess, it's war disguised as strategy. Let's dive in, move by move, into this epic clash. Fabiano opens with pawn e4, thrusting central control forward like a bold spear, challenging Wesley to respond decisively and immediately. Wesley mirrors with pawn a5, confidently meeting Fabiano's ambition and staking equal authority over the crucial central battlefield. Fabiano develops knight to f3, targeting the f5 pawn while preparing kingside safety and accelerating his army's swift mobilization. Wesley brings knight to checks, reinforcing e5 and presenting symmetrical tension, quietly preparing future tactical skirmishes across central squares. Fabiano pins the knight with bb5, applying early psychological pressure and provoking structural weaknesses in Wesley's queenside arrangement. Wesley replies nf6, attacking the e4 pawn and increasing central piece activity, signaling readiness for sharper upcoming complications. Fabiano stabilizes with pawn d3, reinforcing e4 while opening diagonal paths for his bishop and maintaining flexible defensive structure. Wesley develops bishop to c5, eyeing f2 like a predator and amplifying threats that pressure Fabiano's kingside fortifications immediately. Fabiano captures knight on gx, willingly doubling Wesley's pawns and attempting to exploit structural imbalances later during heated exchanges. Wesley recaptures with decisive, preserving material balance while opening the d-file and preparing counterplay possibilities in coming battles. Fabiano positions knight to d2, reinforcing central control and preparing reroutes that could amplify pressure against Wesley's sensitive squares. Wesley castles kingside, securing his monarch in safety and connecting rooks, fully prepared to confront Fabiano's upcoming strategic advances. Fabiano castles as well, ensuring his king's shelter and signaling transition toward an intricate middle game full of dynamic possibilities. Wesley maneuvers knight to d7, regrouping towards stronger central squares and preparing potential jumps that may disrupt White's harmony. Fabiano advances knight to c4, eyeing b6 and d6 aggressively, establishing a menacing presence deep within Wesley's vulnerable territory. Wesley centralizes rook to 8, reinforcing f5 and preparing tactical ideas involving potential pawn breaks or discovered pressure on Fabiano. Fabiano shifts king to hone, a quiet yet insightful move, shielding from tactical pins and preparing supportive kingside pawn advances. Wesley pushes pawn f5, expanding on the queenside and challenging Fabiano's knight stability while gaining valuable attacking space. Fabiano answers with pawn f4, contesting Wesley's advance and locking the queenside tension into a sharp, strategically volatile equilibrium. Wesley activates bishop to b4, pinning knight and amplifying pressure on Fabiano's overloaded queenside defenses with escalating intensity. Fabiano calmly retreats bishop to d2, dissolving the pin while preparing potential recaptures and maintaining stable structural formation. Wesley plays b6, reinforcing the c5 bishop's foothold and strengthening queenside solidity before future central confrontations escalate dangerously. Fabiano brings queen to a8, coordinating rooks and preparing f-pawn advances while subtly improving long-term tactical influence across center. Wesley answers with queen e7, harmonizing heavy pieces and laying groundwork for complex central operations that will soon erupt violently. Fabiano launches g3, preparing a kingside fianchetto and restricting Wesley's knight jumps, while crafting potential attacking platforms later. Wesley captures bishop with bx knight d2, exchanging an active attacker and simplifying tensions while preparing destructive central piece mobilization. Fabiano recaptures qxt2 est, restoring material balance while maintaining queen activity and improving coordination toward upcoming confrontations. Wesley strikes with pawn c5, challenging Fabiano's center and attempting to crack open lines for his bishops and emerging rooks. Fabiano jumps knight to h4, eyeing f5 aggressively while stirring kingside trouble and provoking uncomfortable weaknesses around Wesley's monarch. Wesley retreats knight to bait, regrouping for a reroute toward stronger central squares and keeping future counterplay fully alive. Fabiano thrusts pawn far, igniting kingside tension and attempting to break open lines against Wesley's sturdy yet vulnerable central structure. Wesley places bishop on h3, aggressively targeting g2 and forcing Fabiano to confront immediate kingside pressure with utmost precision. Fabiano counters with rf2, reinforcing g2 and preparing potential doubling while bracing himself for Wesley's rapidly intensifying assault. Wesley captures pawn with x4, opening crucial lines and testing Fabiano's defensive resources, hoping to unleash devastating tactical chances. Fabiano recaptures rxef cf4, activating the rook deep into enemy territory and seizing immediate initiative toward Wesley's slightly exposed king. Wesley jumps knight to checks, re-establishing central influence and renewing threats that challenge Fabiano's aggressively positioned forces. Fabiano reroutes knight to e3, centralizing its power and readying key jumps that may destabilize Wesley's coordinated defensive framework. Wesley leaps knight to d4, occupying a dominant outpost and threatening forks that could shatter Fabiano's delicate tactical harmony. Fabiano retreats knight to f3, nullifying the direct fork threat and stabilizing central control while preparing renewed tactical ideas. Wesley captures with nxf3, removing a crucial defender and increasing long-term pressure against Fabiano's weakened kingside structure. Fabiano recaptures rxft, centralizing his rook and maintaining aggressive prospects while confronting Wesley's expanding tactical threats. Wesley develops bishop to e6, improving activity and targeting c4 while coordinating future operations that may destabilize Fabiano further. Fabiano fortifies queenside with b3, preparing bishop development and reinforcing crucial squares against Wesley's growing positional pressure. Wesley responds with gx, securing central dark squares and preparing potential d5 breaks to finally challenge Fabiano's territorial foothold. Fabiano doubles rooks with rafone, strengthening f-file control and heightening the tension surrounding Wesley's increasingly stressed defenses. Wesley supports his center with f6, restraining Fabiano's pieces and preparing a durable shield around his king before tactics erupt. Fabiano advances g4, a fiery lunge aimed at tearing open kingside lines and forcing Wesley to confront immediate escalating complications. Wesley counters with b5, expanding queenside pressure and attempting to destabilize Fabiano's structure through energetic space-gaining thrusts. Fabiano jumps knight to 5, landing a venomous outpost that threatens tactics on G7 and disrupts Wesley's defensive coordination severely. Wesley neutralizes by capturing BSF5, exchanging the infiltrating knight and reducing immediate tactical fire surrounding his embattled kingside. Fabiano recaptures with RSF5, maintaining aggressive rook activity on the 5th rank and continuing relentless pressure toward Wesley's king. Wesley advances pawn c4, fracturing center tension and creating dynamic pathways for his major pieces to penetrate White's vulnerable structure. Fabiano captures Axe b5, opening the a-file and grabbing space while initiating tactical operations that disturb Wesley's increasingly fragile balance. Wesley recaptures cxb5, restoring material symmetry while opening additional lines that prepare future counterplay opportunities across the board. Fabiano pushes rook to f1, trying to control the e-file while coordinating with queen, preparing to contest Wesley's mounting threats. Wesley calmly doubles rooks with Rifar, centralizing heavy pieces and exerting immense pressure against White's fragile defensive structure. Fabiano shifts king to h4, stepping into a slightly safer square while attempting to maintain balance under Wesley's heavy pressure. Wesley checks with qfone, forcing Fabiano's king into awkward squares and increasing the tension around White's compromised position. Fabiano sidesteps with kf, moving into a temporary haven while seeking to reduce the immediate impact of Wesley's coordinated attack. Wesley continues with Riani, bringing another heavy piece into the fray, dominating the e-file and threatening decisive infiltration into White's camp. Fabiano advances queen to f4, looking for counterplay and defensive tactics, desperately trying to hold together his exposed forces. Wesley slides queen to cuneo, checking and cutting off king escape, creating a deadly coordination between queen and rook for a finishing strike. Fabiano moves king to g2, avoiding immediate disaster but still trapped under severe pressure with few safe options remaining. Wesley repositions queen to chix, centralizing for maximum influence and aligning heavy pieces to create unstoppable tactical threats. Fabiano attempts qe3, defending crucial squares and coordinating with rook to resist black's growing dominance, seeking counterplay opportunities. Wesley captures rook with rc4, demolishing White's defenses and opening lines toward Fabiano's king with lethal precision. Fabiano shifts rook to g3, aiming to create defensive barriers while simultaneously threatening minor tactical counterplay against Wesley's active pieces. Wesley checks with qconeo, pushing Fabiano's king further into vulnerable territory and intensifying the psychological pressure of his assault. Fabiano moves kg2, trying to maintain shelter while avoiding immediate material losses, but Wesley's coordination continues to constrict options. Wesley plays qx, centralizing queen and linking heavy pieces for a decisive combination, gradually tightening the noose around White's king. Fabiano retreats king to gon, seeking safety and preparing to hold off the incoming wave of coordinated attacks with limited resources. Wesley continues with q7, coordinating queen and rook to dominate central and open files, systematically limiting Fabiano's defensive options. Fabiano pushes K11, attempting counter-threats on the 7th rank while trying to complicate the position and delay Wesley's decisive breakthrough. Wesley answers with q7, maintaining central control and threatening tactical motifs that could soon decide the game with absolute clarity. Fabiano tries k8, giving a check in a desperate attempt to create counterplay and distract Wesley's perfectly aligned pieces. Wesley sidesteps Cat7, calmly avoiding the check while keeping his heavy pieces perfectly coordinated for the final assault. Fabiano plays Q8, trying to harass Black's forces while aiming for last-ditch tactical threats that could salvage some balance. Wesley advances Riomni, giving a rook check that dominates the first rank and forces White into increasingly restricted movement. Fabiano moves Kj2-0, stepping away from the check while still trapped in a deadly coordination of Black's rooks and queen. Wesley pushes Qa2n, maintaining relentless pressure and preparing final tactical motifs that make White's position untenable. Fabiano steps Kh3, entering the final stretch where every square is threatened and escape routes are vanishing under Wesley's domination. Wesley plays Re4, forcing the White king further into confinement and coordinating perfectly with his queen to seal the game. Fabiano's remaining queen and rook attempt to create threats, but Black's overwhelming control prevents any meaningful counterplay. Wesley centralizes queen, preparing final strikes against White's trapped king, while maintaining complete dominance of open files. Fabiano moves pieces to block immediate threats, but each move is futile as Wesley's forces dominate every escape square. Wesley aligns rooks and queen, coordinating a mating net that stretches across the board, leaving White with no viable defenses. Fabiano shuffles king and queen, desperately trying to find a loophole, but Wesley's precise coordination nullifies all attempts. Wesley executes final threats with Re4, crushing remaining defensive options, and constricting the White king's mobility completely. Fabiano cannot create effective counterplay, each attempted move falling into the trap set by Wesley's perfectly aligned heavy pieces. Wesley continues Qa2 and Re4 coordination, leaving the White king exposed and sealing the inevitability of victory with clinical precision. Fabiano tries to evade threats, but every square is watched, and all escape routes are blocked by Black's harmonized pieces. Wesley advances queen and rook further into White's territory, tightening the net with calculated patience, leaving no chance of survival. Fabiano struggles to maintain resistance, moving pieces defensively, yet the overwhelming force of Black's coordination dominates entirely. Wesley centralizes for the final combination, rook and queen perfectly aligned, threatening mate and leaving Fabiano completely trapped. Fabiano makes last defensive attempts, but every move is met with a precise counter, his pieces unable to alter the inevitable outcome. Wesley delivers Re4, a crushing blow, forcing the White king to further exposure and demonstrating absolute control of the position. Fabiano's remaining forces are pinned or blocked, unable to coordinate an effective defense against the impending checkmate threats. Wesley maintains relentless pressure, queen and rook dominating open files, systematically eliminating any hope of escape for the White king. Fabiano shuffles pieces in a desperate dance, but Wesley's calculation and coordination render all attempts futile, the position collapsing. Wesley maneuvers queen to E2, reinforcing threats and preparing final mating net, leaving Fabiano's king with literally zero safe squares. Fabiano attempts K8 and other checks, but these are meaningless against Wesley's overwhelming material and positional dominance. Wesley sidesteps with Chaos of Faven, maintaining the king's safety while keeping all tactical threats perfectly coordinated, closing in for victory. Fabiano cannot find any effective defense. All squares covered and all escape routes eliminated, his army trapped with no hope left. Wesley pushes Refour, a precise final strike, coordinating perfectly with his queen, and leaving the white king completely confined and doomed. Fabiano tries last-minute defensive rook or queen moves, but every piece is effectively neutralized, unable to create any meaningful counterplay. Wesley continues Q8 systematically constricting space and forcing Fabiano's king into a corner with no escape possibilities remaining. Fabiano's king moves helplessly to H3, with all neighboring squares dominated by black's coordinated queen and rook pairing. Wesley concludes with Refour, delivering decisive control, leaving white completely immobilized, and securing a spectacular, crushing 0-1 victory. The video ends here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you again, everyone. See you in the next video.